I'm a physical therapist for 14 years and a realtor for 3. I primarily work in residential real estate. And as the time has gone, I realized that really I'm a physical therapist. That's true and near and dear to my heart. And I don't ever want to lose that side. The best ones that I have noticed are the children who are able to just take on the role of the caregiver and be able to step into saying, okay, mom and dad, this is what you ultimately need in such a tender and caring way. Some of the clients that I serve will just be downsizing and moving into a smaller, maybe a condo.
Hello, friend. Welcome. My name is Carline Cadet Francois from Florida Assisted Living Consulting, the company that helps you get your ALF license the first time. We also help busy professionals with their day-to-day of turning their buildings into a licensed assisted living facility or group home. We build community inside of our Thriving Circle community. We show up and help you and give you step-by-step guidance. Click the link below and learn more about it. We are also the hosts of the Florida Assisted Living Caregivers Conference. We have this sold out conference once a year where we bring different guest speakers to educate you and help you in your journey. If I have one ask is that you please consider to like and subscribe if you find any value in this video and share it with someone who will find it valuable. I am so excited to introduce my guest today, Miss Janette. I have to tell you first about how I met her. It was at the Assisted Living Caregivers Conference. And when I tell you I needed a hug, and God placed her at the right time, at the right moment to administer, and I know I'm saying administer, that hug to me because it was like medicine for that moment. Yeah. Miss Janette Flores is a licensed realtor and physical therapist for over 14 years. And I will let her introduce herself because I am so super excited to dive into how is she able to have those two big titles together to serve her community. Janette, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, first of all, Carline, I just want to say thank you for that beautiful introduction. And also thank you for having me on today. I think it's such an honor to be able to work with you and connect with you. Our first connection to me was amazing. It was such a special time. I was so happy to be there. Like we said before, when God calls us to be at the exact right time, at the right place, that's what we do. So it was beautiful. And I'm happy to have been that person to do that for you. So to introduce myself a little, like you said, I'm a physical therapist for 14 years and a realtor for 3. I primarily work in residential real estate. And I got started, a lot of us went through this with the pandemic. During the pandemic, I was pregnant with my 3rd child, my daughter, who's now 5. And right after I gave birth, my family was visiting. My parents were here visiting, helping us getting things situated with I have 2 other children as well. My husband and my dad kind of had this like brainiac idea of like, hey, Janette, you wanted to get your real estate license. So while you're on maternity leave, now would be a good time. My baby was 3 days old, and that was probably not the best time, but I did it because God was also calling and telling me that was the right thing to do. So it wound up taking me kind of a while to actually pass a license, finish the course. So it was about 1.5 years later, trying to juggle things as babies are going back into preschool through the pandemic, trying to still keep my job as a physical therapist. But I did it, and I'm very grateful that I did. Didn't necessarily have the intention for me to become, somebody helping people buy and sell homes. It was more from like an investment perspective. But as the market changed and just listening to God's calling, things were lining perfectly, and I started helping people be able to buy and sell their homes. And as the time has gone, I realized that I still really am a physical therapist. That's true and near and dear to my heart, and I don't ever want to lose that side of me. But I have been able to be more flexible with my role as a mom, now of 3 children, with doing the real estate thing as a primary role. But I never wanted to lose that healthcare side of me. So I realized what a perfect marriage it is to work more with my senior clientele and to be able to help them as they transition into different areas of their life, whether it's downsizing or maybe moving into a more safe environment. That's what my primary focus has been on now. That's pretty much the background of how I got here.
That is so amazing. I just want to say that is amazing. And congratulations on your family. I'm a mom of 3 as well, and I love to be mom in chief. That was one of my biggest reasons for having a career change so that I could be at home with my children. But I just love how you were you're a new mom and you have this goal and you talk about it with your husband and he says, why don't you do it?
Uh-huh.
Similarly to me, I wasn't a new mom, but when I wanted to leave the sheriff's office, it
Uh-huh.
was my husband's idea that I got into senior care. He knew all the good signs as to why I would do well in this field.
Yep.
And I'm so proud to hear that even as a new mom, I don't know if I was strong enough to do that, but because as a new mom, you have so much going on. But to see the drive in you to use that time to tackle a new career, letting your beautiful newborn inspire you for time flexibility, I think that is amazing. Kudos to you.
I think we all like when that baby is placed in your lap for the first time and all those emotions are happening and all the things are swimming around and you just don't know how much of an adjustment life is going to be. I had no idea. I mean, I had 2 kids, so like how hard can be a third one, right? But man, that was, I'll never forget sitting there. I would put the class up on my TV in my bedroom and I would be breastfeeding and I couldn't stay awake. And of course, now looking back, I think, oh my goodness, this poor girl, like, what was I thinking? Like, of course I couldn't stay awake. All those hormones that are flowing through us postpartum. So, but it was my husband just kept saying, but you're able to do this. It's just a matter of time and when it's going to happen. And I did the real estate. You're technically only allowed to extend out that course by 6 months. So the place that I had taken it through, they allowed me to extend it for 6 months. And I'll tell you, I made it down to that very last wire, but I do work well under pressure. So, but yeah, it was a fun adventure.
It was. I could tell that it was. Because you know what? I remember every time I would have a new baby, I had my children 5 years apart, almost 6 years apart. And every time I would have a new baby, it's like I get knocked down. I just can't imagine how you're able to tackle this new thing with a newborn baby. And I'm super inspired by it. And it shows your drive and your focus and that you're fearless. I love that about you. And so having a good husband and being a mom, and we have so much emotions going on and we just want to do the right things. And sometimes we don't realize our superpower. And I think this story allowed me to see our superpower in us, especially around the times that we become mom and we're bringing a new life into this earth. So I'm excited to see once you got your license and you decided, I've already been serving seniors to some capacity, but I want time flexibility. How did you decide that you wanted to pursue serving seniors in real estate as well?
Good question. So it took some time. I kind of didn't really connect the 2 dots initially. So I started, but ironically, my very first customer that I served as a realtor, I worked mostly with the daughter-in-law, but it was the family's property and it had sat vacant for a while. I know for sure that, every transaction I've done in real estate has been God related. He's been brought it directly to me, but I felt like I was able to really understand them because it was not an easy thing for the family to go through. Mom had been struggling with some mental health issues for a while, age-related changes. And I just remember it wasn't easy by any means. It was a really difficult transaction, but it was easy for me to be able to understand them and relate to them as human to human. And I didn't put those 2 together. It was like God was like, hey, this is highlighting me like directly in this direction, but I didn't pick up on that right away. So probably about 8 months or so ago, I was toying around with different ideas and realizing as I was calling through my database, that a lot of them were elderly. And I started then kind of researching. I looked at the ALA website, the Florida Association, or the Assisted Living Facility Association. And I started connecting the dots of like, hey, there's a place for me here as a PT that's a little bit more of a niche situation. Then I realized that the National Association of Realtors actually has a designation, the Senior Real Estate Specialist course. So when I saw that, it was like perfect timing. My dad was able to fly down and help me with the kids. So I was able to go and take that course in Boca. And so I did that. And it like filled my cup. I felt so ready to take on this because it truly is a challenge. Every realtor is not going to feel the same way about working with senior population, but I've been really fortunate. It's a long process. When I'm working with the seniors, I cannot expect that I'm going to meet them and list their house the next week. It is a process. So yeah, that's kind of how I started like putting the two together. The one other thing I'll mention too is from being a physical therapist, I have seen this transition happening so often. So I work inpatient rehab. That's been primarily what I've done for my career for PT. And I see people come in, not always elderly, but oftentimes elderly. Maybe they lived alone. And then there's something that traumatic happened. Maybe they had a fall and had a brain injury, or they had a fall, or they had a stroke. And all of a sudden they can't go home and live by themselves. And I would see family after family and person after person going through this. And I always thought how challenging and stressful this situation must be for that person and that family, because none of us want to see ourselves in that situation. So I always had a passion for it from that side of it as well. So yeah, that's kind of how I got it transitioned into marrying the two together and really seeing how beautiful they work together.
That is so amazing. That is so amazing. I love seniors, and I think they love me back. Because one thing about seniors, if you're not welcome, you will know it. They do not care about your feelings. They will tell it to you how it is, and you could take it how you want to take it. Serving them is different because they require an extra set of patience, an extra set of love. And sometimes you may have to repeat things different times. And other times you may have to find unique ways of saying things so that they can understand, because not only are they facing a huge decision that they have to make, because now they have to move out of their home. Perhaps something terrible happened where they may have seen you as a physical therapist, and now they have so much going on. And when you couple that with age-related delays, and so serving that population requires you to be like the person who gave me that hug that day, where you are, you are not just doing your job, but you are there as a loving person, as a person who can empathize, and you can show them that extra love. You can go that extra step. And it takes a special type of person to serve that population. What is that process like for you serving for our seniors?
The time of things is very slow. And you have to, it's not even, I don't even want to use the word patience, because it's different than that. It's truly being able to understand that you cannot overwhelm the person. You have to be able to take the time, because it's time consuming. I'll give you a specific example. I have one lady I'm working with right now who she desperately needs a new roof. Like it's going to get her in trouble if she doesn't get this roof taken care of. She invited me over to sit with her during a meeting that she was having with somebody. And I'm so glad that I was there, because she really would have gotten herself into a bad situation. We all know. I don't even have to explain the full situation of what could have happened. We all know it, right? It took 2 hours out of my Sunday evening away from my family, which is, time is as valuable just as much as money in our parenthood, right? But I would have it no other way. And I think that's the such crucial component of, if getting a new roof for her would help my job tremendously, because then I can sell her home a lot easier, right? But what's going to benefit for her the most is by making sure she's doing it in an appropriate, cost-effective way, and not being taken advantage of by people who can do that. So, and I think a little bit more too is I've noticed that seniors are very skeptical of people willing and trying to actually help them. So I have to sometimes break that barrier first. They always want to know, but like, what's going on here? And you can get that sense sometimes. And so it takes time. I can't push it. If I try to explain it to them, no, I'm not taking advantage of you, it's only going to take that much more for them to really, truly trust me. And I think that part, it's understandable because of those type of situations with the roofer. They do get taken advantage of just by having age underneath them. They could be the smartest person in the entire world, but for some reason, people think that they're more vulnerable and that type of thing. And the seniors are smart enough to know that that's the case. So I have to really make sure to build that relationship with them first. You know, real estate is often looked at as a very transactional type of business, but for me, it's very relational. The best realtors that I work alongside with, they look at business the same way, that it's relational. It's not just transactional. So that's one of the things that I've noticed is that it's a huge difference for my senior customers compared to just, you know, anybody else.
Love that. There is definitely a barrier to break. I came from the caregiving side when I used to manage an ALF. And I will tell you, usually the first week of a new client moving in, it's all about making sure that they feel safe, making sure that they know, listen, nothing bad is going to happen to you here. You can trust all of us, but by action, never say it because the minute you say it, they're like, oh, you're trying to trick me. And after that first week, once their own senses realize, oh, I'm safe here, I'm okay, then they open up. And that's the point where we can then begin to really serve them and not be on guard about them being on guard and not feel like they are thriving. So definitely when it comes to seniors, they put that layer up. A lot of it is because of life experiences and knowing too that people do take advantage of seniors. And it's sad to say. And so they put that guard up. Interestingly enough, I think like people like me and you who value serving others, who value relationship, and then coupled with the fact that we are mothers, how do you see that your role as a mother help you to serve?
Oh, that's a good question. I like this. So I think just in my parenting journey alone, I've had to really learn patience, like more than any. And, you know, it's funny because I said, oh, I wouldn't use that word, but now I'm gonna. Just being able to really understand that people are so different, even the ones that we gave birth to. I have two of mine I gave birth to. One of them I did not. He's still my child, but I didn't actually give birth to him. So just learning, like, we all come built differently. And so we have to be able to have that understanding of other people, that we're not all going to think the same. We're not all going to react the same way. If I tell my middle son to go put away his backpack, it's probably going to take 500 times more for me to get him to actually do that. My older boy, I don't have to tell him to put his backpack away. It's already going to be done. That's just how they operate. So that, and then having that patience to be able to give them the time that, okay, I need to know it's going to take this son 500 times before he actually does that, you know, and being able to be more understanding. Now, I don't always do that perfectly, especially with my own children, but I also have to learn that to have grace for myself because I'm not perfect either. So I think in working just with people in general and being able to understand that we're just human. It's just the way that it works. And, you know, I run into people very often who are not really willing to get help that I personally think that they need. So I cannot just bombard them. I have to take a step back. I have to think about where they're coming from, what their perspective of things are. I think when I put my PT hat on, that's when I say, are you sure? Like, are you really sure you're safe in your home? Is there anything that, and I just have to be accepting of the fact that sometimes people don't want their help, other people's help. So I have to allow that to be the situation or find a different way to be able to serve them in a different capacity. So yeah, that's a good question to marry those two things together. I don't know if I've ever thought of being a parent, how much it's helped me in both of my careers.
Same here. And, you know, being a parent, we like to say, oh, people like to think, I can't believe Jesus died for us, right? And I said, the easiest way he showed us that he died for us is by giving us children. You would die for that little person anytime, over and over. Okay. And I feel like the way that God prepared us in different phases in life is by giving us children. And I can remember every time one of my children were born, I was somebody different, but a more beautiful, stronger side of me would show up. And I'm just like, oh, this is so amazing. And some days I'm like, what have I done? Right?
That is very true. That is very true.
Yeah, and I think that's how he prepare us to show up to the world, to serve, and to see your children in other people's children. And I will tell you, I've been in situations in my deputy hat where I can see, like, I can see myself as that person's mother. What would
Yeah.
I say to you if I was your mother? And so you have to bridge those two hats together and you have to find the common ground. Being a mother have allowed me to do that.
Such a good perspective to have of thinking, if this was my child, even if they're older than us, what would I say to them? How would I want my children to be treated? Because we're all children. We have brothers, sisters, and, moms, dads. And so it's really important to keep that part into perspective. I don't know that I've ever really thought about it that way, but I do think I oftentimes will think of it the other way. How would I want to treat this person if they were my mom? That's been a real, because that's somebody's grandmother, or maybe they're not, maybe they're an aunt or just a friend, but that person is a person. So that part is really important. I like that. I'm going to put that into my memory too, is how would I treat them if they were my child right now? How would their parent want me to treat them? I like that.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Consider my grandmother raised me. I can see a lot of other things I've done that matches that. Being all of that said, have you been in situations where you're not only taking care of the senior, whether it's your PT hat or your real estate hat, how are you end up taking care of the family members themselves? Because oftentimes I find we think we're going to take care of their mom or their dad or their aunt, and then we end up taking care of them too.
Yes, this is, oh my goodness. I have had this so much in both of my careers. And it's meaningful. This is just kind of a funny thing that I've noticed along the way. I hope it's okay I say this, because sons to mothers are that when they're the ones that are involved and they're the ones helping their mom, I've never seen bigger babies in all my life. Like they just so I can't even, I sometimes am taken aback by it's okay. Like, I promise I'm going to take care of your mom. It's okay. This is mostly in the physical therapy side of things, but it does blend into the real estate side of things too. But it's just so funny to see, it just shows us I have 2 boys, how powerful our relationship with them. It really is. Women, children, women as children are typically very structured. They're bosses. They know they have to execute things. They have to get it done. And I've noticed that a lot. But then when I see the male child, I always am I have to be more tender with them because they don't understand mom is aging. It's so hard for them to accept that. And it really is a delicate balance because they're also still playing a male role. So it's a different, it's a little bit different, but I've seen that so many times and it can be heartbreaking. It can also be really sweet. I've learned this from my PT side. I always say, whatever your parent treated you like as a child is how the child winds up treating the parent as they get older. And I've seen that time and time again. And the best ones that I have noticed are the children who are able to just take on the role of the caregiver and be able to step into saying, okay, mom and dad, this is what you ultimately need, in such a tender and caring way. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I have a family I'm working with right now that there's 4 kids and one is a power of attorney. So they've done a lot of smart pre-planning. They've gone about it, but there's a lot of emotions. The daughter is the POA. So I'm working primarily with her, but I have to consider all parts. I always tell the families with real estate, you want to still walk away as a family. Mom and dad they're the unit that brought you guys together, but now it's your responsibility to stay together even as they pass. Both parents in this situation are still living right now, thank God. So we're working together that way. But when deaths start to happen, that's when things can get really tricky for the family to then make decisions. So it's, there's a lot of just empathy for the families. And like we were talking about just a second ago, is putting ourselves into their role and seeing how they would feel, how would I want to be treated in this situation? And also being able to referral sources. I think that part has played such an important role for me, is networking and being able to get to know the rest of our community, because there are really great businesses out there. That's helped me so much to be able to put some of the burden at ease for the adult children, is saying, hey, it's okay. we know that roof needs to get replaced, and we're going to decide whether or not you should do that before we sell it, or if we don't need to. Let's get a trusted roofer that I know over to the property. I can give you a couple referrals. I'll meet them at the property if that helps you. And then we go from there. I have that particular situation. Unfortunately, the roofer came and they have iguanas that are now trying to make the roof their home. So then we had to call removal company. So it's just things like, it's just building, but being able to have that trusted referral source has become so important for me. So
it's true. And I will tell you, when I used to manage, if you see that it is a son that show up,
I know.
you you better be perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they want to make sure that mom is going to be safe no matter what. You better have all your emergency plans, all your procedures, your files. You better have a plan for every question that is going to be asked. They're going to ask it. And if you don't answer it in a way that they feel safe with it, that's it. You're done. Mom is not coming here.
Yeah.
And I find it to be so sweet. I find it to be so
Yeah.
sweet. Even though we can say, do I really have to answer all of these questions? But as a mom who had a son first, I find it to be sweet. Their way of making sure that mom know they are taking care of mom. Now, whenever I see a daughter, I know I need to make sure, okay, this, and that. She feels mom is going to be safe. Decision has to be made. And that's the end of it. And whenever I see a daughter and a son, I know I'm going to have to play the devil's advocate and play those. It's beautiful to see. And sometimes they begin to argue right in front of you.
Yeah. Oh, yes. That sometimes when it's appropriate, I will sell them. It's probably not worth the argument right now. Let's just come back to it. We'll work on this later. This is, we can put a pin in this. It's not worth it. You guys' relationship is much more important than this little tiny thing. What color bed sheets mom's going to live with, and that kind of thing.
It's so amazing. And then you find yourself, at least for me, I feel like it's such an opportunity to be in senior care, because now I can fix things now to help. I have 3 children, and the boys are, they show up, where's mommy? It's like, who's talking? Because they're so big, so much bigger than me. And my daughter is like, I can see her being the boss while the boys just want to make sure mom is safe. So now I'm looking back and I'm like, what are some things that me and my husband can do now to help this situation? And I feel like it's such an opportunity to have this type of wisdom right now while we're both so young.
I would agree. That's one thing that I have learned to partner with, not just estate planners, because estate planners are really important, but also elder law attorneys. I met the lady who was one of the ones that was at your conference. I actually just met with her yesterday, ironically. And
that is so amazing.
It is. And it's just so important. That is such an important component. And exactly what you just said. My husband and I, me especially, because I'm the one that's talking to them every, daily or whatever it was. But to be able to have that, like, let's come up with a plan now. And then not just us, but spreading that information to our peers, our age, because we don't know what is the next step for our lives. And it's so much better to have it all situated. Properties is number one thing. I also know probate attorneys as well, yes, they're necessary to have those, but I would so much rather the estate planners and the elder law attorneys first before getting to that probate, because that part's really sad. It's really sad to have families that aren't aware of how hard that process is until after the fact. And so I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting that information out to the community as much as possible. Even if it doesn't come back to me, it's just so that way people have the information, because I do genuinely believe that's such an important component. And it's heartbreaking to watch when it doesn't happen that way. Yeah.
So true. So true. And I love the fact that you're putting yourself in the right places too, to be able to serve, whether it's the senior or their family members. The referrals are everything. And we met at the Assisted Living Caregivers Conference, and you mentioned you found some resources there, but then you're sharing it, whether or not it comes back to you, you're sharing it. And I feel like God give us knowledge and wisdom so that we can share, because we all need each other. We talked
Yeah.
about that before we hit record, but we all need each other. And it's one of the things that I've always talked about. In information sharing is one of the ways that we can be the most valuable to each other. And how do you feel serving both of your hats is connected to assisted living facilities?
I love this. This is the highlight of the day question. So I have made it my mission to connect with as many assisted living facility communities as possible because of the fact that typically, not always, some of the clients that I serve, the customers that I serve, will just be downsizing and moving into a smaller, maybe a condo, but primarily they're going to be into independent living, assisted living, or memory care even. And it's so important for me to be able to know, like, and trust the communities that I would be recommending for my customers to check into. Sometimes there's not even an opportunity for the family member or the customer to actually go and look at the community themselves. So they're really going to be relying on me to then say, this could be the right fit for you. Let's pull in the elder law attorney, or maybe just rely on some of the information that I have for the financial part of it. If you sell your property, not every property that's going to be sold is going to necessarily be able to afford what they're looking for. And so then we have to tap into other resources, et cetera. And that's when it gets complicated. But I'm sitting down and meeting face to face with different assisted living facilities. And I think it's truly the key for me being successful in what I'm doing is to be able to know, like, and trust those that are out there in the community. And there's so many different levels that is beyond even really truly my comprehension right now, but what I'm building in my toolbox. And so I always say when I'm meeting with them is, do you know the person who could potentially be moving in here? Do you know that realtor? Do you have a relationship with them? If you don't, I think it's crucial for both sides, my side and for that community side, to be able to get to know each other. Even if it's not me, they should say, hey, we really should have a conversation with that realtor. Only share out of factual information. If the family member thinks, oh, I'm going to sell their house, that mom can sell her house for $1 million. And the reality is the realtor is saying, well, we're going to list it for $1 million, but I'm expecting 700,000 because the family's just really pushed that realtor to list it at that price. They need to have that conversation so the community that they're potentially moving into has that better understanding to make sure that they're serving them properly as well. I've heard you talk about this some on the other podcasts that you've done with others, is that it's heartbreaking when that person that moves into one facility then can't necessarily afford that over the long term. And so it's, we can't predict everything, but I do feel we're doing a service to our customers to look at that as a perspective. We don't know how long the person is going to live. Hopefully, for a good time, but we don't know because it's just how life goes. And we don't want those dollars to run out prematurely if we can prevent it. So I think that's like a huge part of it. I'm getting out there in the community and doing workshops and seminars at physical therapy clinics and also at assisted living facilities to be able to make sure that people are starting to see who I am in the community and really understand that there is a difference between a senior real estate specialist like myself and compared to a realtor who may not look at all of these components. So the relationship that I have with the people that you serve in the assisted living facilities is crucial for me to be able to properly serve the seniors that I work with.
That is so amazing. And we fail to realize certain things until we actually go through it. And now we know, oh God, now I know what that feels like. One of the ways that even as someone who managed an ALF, when I wear that hat, family members will come to me and say, well, we were paying from X, Y, and Z fund, but now it's about to run out. We may need to sell mom house. We need to figure out what's going to happen with the properties that she have. Do you have anybody that we can use? When you're able to say, yes, use this person, use that person. I know this person, I know that person. You have actually helped that family member so much because now they don't have to worry about being scammed, people not doing the right thing. And I feel it is both necessary for communities to have proper referral systems for your clients, build those relationships, go put yourself in the right rooms, go to those conferences, go to those workshops, go out, meet different people. I've found even my own personal friends have asked me for resources. And
Sure.
even if you're not someone who is a professional, you need it for your peers
Yeah, that's
and
true.
your specialty in taking care of the seniors as a realtor. Can you tell us a couple of things about the education aspects of what you had to go through as part of your exam?
So the senior real estate specialist doesn't have like an actual exam. It was a 3-day course and it's a wonderful course. But I think for me, the education has really been building from my career with the physical therapy side of it. If I were working specifically with a senior and wanting to do a referral, you can go on the database, the senior real estate specialist database, and it has a list of people who have gotten the designation. So it's a 3-day course and they really break a lot of senior like specific things down. One is capital gains, like what happens when that person goes to sell, if there's a surviving spouse, if there's a certain time frame, that capital gains is calculated based on those type of things, as well as reverse mortgages. I'm working with somebody right now that has a reverse mortgage on their property, and it's not going to be just as simple to say, okay, put it on the market and sell it. We have to make sure that that sale is going to at least cover that mortgage, that reverse mortgage that's on there. There's also things that I didn't know of until I took that class. With the reverse mortgage, there's things that will trigger a repayment to start with the reverse mortgage. If they are not doing things like keeping up the property, if they move out of the property, all of those things will trigger a repayment automatic for that reverse mortgage. So the course covers all of those things. And so it's lightning speed. We go through it. And then what I did was I took all of that home and then again, got with my accountant friends, got with my lawyer friends, asked more deep dive questions. And interestingly, when I ask those questions, I do get variations of different, what happens with title transfer. There's different opinions on there. So it's just keep asking until we can kind of like connect the dots together. Yeah. So I don't want to confuse it with the senior real estate specialist. That is not like a separate certification. It's just a course. Then you become a designated person. And then you have to keep up. Every year we have to pay like a monthly due. And then for me, I go on that website quite regularly because they do provide a lot of information that I can use as resources for the customers that I serve. Yeah.
I love how you couple the education with your resources because I feel education without resources is almost, I don't want to say useless, but it's not serving at 100% because we are only able to do so much. But you mentioned you tapped into at least 4 resources after you went through that course.
Yeah.
And so what are some red flags would you say family members should watch out for when choosing assisted living and having to perhaps sell the house or finding out what are the best ways that the investments should be managed when it comes to the funding options of that?
Good question. So for me, I think the biggest one is starting with where the equity is going to land within the property. If we're looking at assisted living facility, and yes, it's the bells and the whistles, and it's, mom and dad are going to be living resort style living, but the price point is a little bit higher than what the longevity of the sale of their property is going to be. That's a big one. Also making sure before the sale of the home actually the transaction happens, that they're sitting with somebody who's going to be able to allocate those funds properly, because capital gains is a big thing. If they're selling their property, if it's a couple and they're selling it for more than 500, they're going to gain more than 500,000. They really need to see where should the rest of those funds go to minimize as much as possible, being able to get that taken care of. Another big one is the first thing I look at when I pull up a property that I'm going to meet with somebody about, whose name is the title in? Is it in a trust? Is it in a ladybird deed? To be able to make sure if during the time that I'm working with that family, if mom and dad, or mom or dad, if they pass away, what's going to happen? Are we going to then be in probate? And so educating the family. So that's number one big red flag, and my role to educate the family. And if they're already working with an assisted living facility or community, they should be aware of that as well. Because, of course, as the person's transitioning into the home, we don't know what's going to happen. That I've seen cases of that where the person passes away before they are even able to move in. And then that's going to change the trajectory of things as well. And then I think that's probably the big red flags that I would be concerned about. The reverse mortgage, like I mentioned it, but yeah, those are as far as looking, at the different communities, I think for me is I want to be welcomed into the community wherever I'm going to go see. And so far I've had really good experience with that. I haven't had anybody that I'd say, ooh. I also, again, going back to the resources, I sound like it's like all I want to talk about, but I do work with assisted living facility finders who they're the ones they're really good. They know. I've sat with them and, just kind of casual conversation, like friendly. They'll tell me like, do not, whatever you do, like stay away from this one or go see it just for fun. And I'm always like, I don't want to get involved. Like that's, I'm not going to recommend somebody to go there if he's telling me that. But that's again, like that's what that person, the assisted living facility finder is doing all the live long day is they are getting to know these communities inside and out. So if I ever called a community and they said, oh, call me back next Tuesday, we'll try to schedule something next month. Why? Like I want to get in there ahead of time. So that way I know where I don't want to find out once I'm working with that customer. I want to have these all set up ahead of time so I know where to send people. So yeah, those are probably be the red flags that I'd be looking out for.
That's amazing. And you know what? Working with senior finders, when I had just got into the business and I was managing my own ALF that I had open, I learned so much from them. I learned so much. We call them placement agents. Call them placement agents. And I tell my community to have a relationship with them and to respect what they do and the relationship that they've been able to nurture throughout the years, because that's the backbone of their business. Majority of them knows a lot of people within the community who can help get things done. And I think it's very smart that you do work with them, because they will tell you, oh, don't go to that one. Don't go to this one. Do this, do that.
Yeah.
Did you know your client will need X, Y, and Z? Have you had this conversation? So they themselves are a wealth of knowledge. And most of them, the ones that do very well, they really do care for their clients and their own reputation. So they want to do things a certain way. Any advice that you've given to family members juggling? Because we said a lot. To us, it's like, oh, we're just having conversation. Imagine if this is a family member. Mom have gone through all of these things me and you have talked about. At this point, you're overwhelmed. Any advice for them?
It's take a second to really breathe, relax. It is a very overwhelming. There's nothing that we can do to solve the problem in the exact moment. I will do as much as I can to put the burden onto me, to take it off of them as much as possible. But it is a very stressful situation. I also, from the physical therapy side of things, I work very closely with people that do more mind body healing. And I know you even had somebody at the conference and I think we miss that sometimes as the caregiver, how much we're pouring from ourselves onto our loved one and into everything that we're doing for them. And I think for that family member to take a minute to be able to take care of some of the things that are really weighing heavy for them, because these are big decisions, and they're big decisions for somebody else. It's not just for, if we're making them for ourselves, I think it might be easier, right? But when we're doing it for somebody that we've known usually from childbirth, like, as our parent, we really know them. And so we think we know what they want, but we don't always. And we're kind of second guessing ourselves. So taking just a step back, we're not in a rush. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I was given that advice early on with my oldest son. He has special needs. So it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We're going to get there. And I know sometimes I have to say that to them, but then take on the urgency role of, this needs to get done right now today. But I try to keep that, them feeling like, okay, we are in control of the situation. We've got to really just take it step by step and make things as simple as possible for them. But that mental health component is just so crucial for all of us, but especially for the caregiver who is working with somebody who has maybe gone through a traumatic event, et cetera, things that we've already talked about. Yeah, that's my advice for my family members that I work with as well.
I love that. And I will also add, give yourself some grace, because
Yes.
at the end of the day, your loved one would not have liked to see you be torn apart and your life upside down because life happened to them. They don't
Yeah.
want life to happen to them and then to happen to you. So think
Right.
of that. And I find that our caregivers and people who are in those type of positions, they are doing the best that they can, but sometimes we can judge ourselves a little too hard. So we can have grace for everybody else, but no grace for ourselves. So give yourself some grace. Any last word of advice, even if it's for a senior person that is in the position where they're making decisions, juggling all of those things that we talked about? That has to be overwhelmed as well. Any advice for them?
Yes, very much. I think pre-planning as much as possible. I have told as many people as I possibly can, make the decisions now for yourself so that way others don't have to later on. It's not going to make it more or less scary when you're going through whatever the situation might be by pre-planning ahead of time. I know a lot of times fear will stop people from jumping in and meeting with the right people and getting the right advice and connecting with the right resources. But I think it's so crucial that, like we were talking about earlier, is we start thinking about these things now ahead of time. We're in the right generation to do that. But those who are in the senior generation, they maybe not have, but there's always a time to start, can be today. And I think that would be my biggest advice for anybody, having seen people go through things that they never expected would ever happen. The ones who are already set, pre-planned, while they're able to make the decisions for themselves. That's my biggest advice that I would give to myself or to my family members as well.
I love that. And we never know what's going to happen, because some people enter assisted living not because they are of age, but because of mental health, other, related issues that
Yeah.
drives them into assisted living and different things that may have happened to them. So if you're watching this, start planning. Just
Yeah.
start planning, put pen to paper, reach out to the right resources, and start actually having a plan for your life. And sometimes we live longer, especially as women, than we anticipate. So have a plan for that too. What's going to happen to you or your loved one. Have those hard conversations very early on. And I'm grateful. This was so good. I'm grateful that you spent this time. I mean, even I learned so much from our conversation today. So
Okay.
how can
Perfect.
my audience find you?
Sure. So I'm always available for a phone call. My cell phone number, 262-496-5454, or my email, which is my first and last name. So it's Janette Flores at SolitoRealty.com. So they can search for my name, which is Janette Flores, on LinkedIn. And then I'm also on Instagram. Might be a little bit harder to find me on Instagram, but LinkedIn is probably the, as far as business to business, that's probably the easiest way to find me.
Reach out to her, y'all. Just let her know what was your big aha moment. What was the one thing that really resonated with you? I'm grateful that you spent this time with us. I hope that you found value, because we don't like to waste people's time. We want to serve you right. We want to give you value. We want to make sure you can go out and share this information with somebody that will find it valuable. And God give us knowledge and connections so that we can help others. So don't just keep the information to yourself. Share it with your family, with your friends, and anybody else that will find it valuable. I do want to invite you to the Assisted Living Caregivers Conference 2026. We have been selling the tickets. It is hot cake. The last one sold out very early on, and this one is going to sell out too. I want to invite you, if it's something that you see you will find value in it, check out the descriptions below. Take a look and see if it will resonate with you. If so, I invite you. We won't waste your time. Thank you for spending this time here with us. Please consider to like, subscribe, and again, share it with somebody that will find it valuable. Until next time, happy to serve you. I will see you in the next one. This video is brought to you by the Florida Assisted Living and Caregivers Conference. It is an annual conference for all those who want to open an assisted living right here in Florida. We bring you all of the who's that will help you achieve your ALF. We have caregivers, we have people that already have their assisted living up and running, and they are here for resources. We have caregivers caring for mom and dad at home, but lack resources, so they show up for more resources. We have investors that are in the room looking for partnerships because they don't necessarily want to manage, but they are looking for someone to do the day-to-day while they can do the other investments. We also bring to you all of the sub-industries, those providers that help you get your ALF up and running, the providers that will come to your ALF to provide services to your seniors. We bring everyone in the room for the first time. This event normally sells out. Click the link in the description and I will see you in the room.